Chapter 1 The Great Illusion. Church is a Safe Place. Being the church has always been a dangerous thing. Going to church has not. In the last 15 years, there have been close to 800 deadly force incidents, DFI, in American churches, with just under 500 ending in death. Compare that with the fact that in the last 30 years, there have been 297 shooting deaths in American schools, and you have to wonder why the conversation on church violence has been so little. Looking back at how first-century Christians lived out their walk with God, it is clear to see that when you took a stand for Christ, you took a hit from both the religious world and the local government and culture of that time. Even more interesting, Jesus knew very well what the dangers of following him would be and didn't mind having his followers take risks. After all, taking this new message of good news to the uttermost parts of the earth would involve many risks, both physically, spiritually, and even emotionally. Leaving your family behind to follow Christ was a huge decision which oftentimes you were not given much time to make. After all, it was Jesus who said, "Let the dead bury the dead. You come and follow me." Luke 9:60. Considering there were no local police departments, very poor road systems, wild animals, oppressive and corrupt governments, you didn't have to look far for trouble. That doesn't even take into consideration the criminal element of that day, which was certainly abundant. While being a Christian still brings certain risks and dangers in many other parts of the world, sitting in a building to worship God with your family shouldn't be one of them. It is one thing to go to and risk your life preaching the gospel to those who are hungry and lost, but quite another when those who are hungry and lost are put at risk just for listening to you. I repeat, Jesus did understand that following him was a risky business, and this is why he said, "Behold, I send you out as sheep among wolves." Matthew 10:16. Sheep are very docile animals with very few defenses. They pretty much depend on a shepherd to keep them safe from any harm or danger. Those dangers could be anything from wild animals looking for a meal, other shepherds trying to steal them to build their own flock, or even their own lack of ability to protect and feed themselves. The wolves, on the other hand, are ruthless and very capable carnivores. They travel in packs and look for the weak and defenseless animal that could be their next meal. Basically, what Jesus was saying when he said, "I send you out as sheep among wolves," was, "I'm sending you out as dinner." The early church met in homes where you allow in those you knew and those who knew you. It was not necessarily a public meeting place where all were welcome. Although Jesus did sometimes teach in the temple, most early Christians met in each other's homes. They even had secret signs and symbols to protect themselves from physical harm, such as the ichthus, which was a symbol that looked very much like a fish. It helped determine where the safe meeting places were, as well as to determine friend from foe. It was, in essence, the secret handshake. If you didn't know the handshake, you did not proceed. This was the setting of most New Testament worship meetings, the homes of friends and loved ones who would open their home for a time of intimate fellowship and worship of God. Yes, there was much violence against Christians, but it was more for being a Christian and having dared go against the tide of the local religious strongholds and corrupt governments, not for being in a certain type of building on a certain day of the week. The truth is that today, many people who go to church are not Christians. The old adage of just because you walk into a garage doesn't make you a car holds very true in this situation.